Hello, 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 amigas, and welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. I am super excited here because we have my guru here, Ilona Pamplona. She's been here before with us, but she's got her second book, and I needed to have her here because, gosh, she's super amazing. And she has this new book, and I'm going to show it right now. It's called Human Design Made Easy. I mean, come on. Understanding the five energy types, which obviously we're going to talk about those five energy types. But I'm so excited that she wrote this book because it is made easy. And one of the beautiful things about Ilona is that as soon as I asked her if she could be on my podcast to highlight her book, she said, yes. And I said, well, hell yeah. So, welcome, 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 Ilona, to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm so excited to be back.
Yes. I think that well, human design, obviously, we've been working together for some time, so I'm pretty familiar with it. But for those amigas out there who are saying, like, what the heck is this whole human design? I mean, because I would not do it justice if I did the explanation. So tell us, what does human design mean and how good is it for us?
Well, if you're an astrology girly, you're familiar with the planets moving and cycling, you're familiar with horoscopes, you know your birth chart, maybe you know your sun, moon, and stars. Human design takes astrology, it takes the Chinese I Ching, it takes the Kabbalah, it takes the Hindu Brahmin chakra centers, and it creates this one system where they all live, and it says, this is how your energy works in the quantum field. And everyone's like, well, that sounds like very intense, but I'm like, but it's really cool because all of these systems have so much wisdom. So we do have the wisdom of all of that in the human design system, but it really, if you simplify it, it's like this is how your energy works. So
Mhm.
even if there's Mercury retrograde, even if you're having a bad day at work, even if you are looking for clients, like how does your energy work under any circumstances for you to be aligned?
Yeah. Oh my God, yes. And I love that because if you understand what your human design is, it's just a tremendous asset in your life. And so, as you were saying, well, let's first ask, why did you write the book?
You know what? This is a great question. I wrote the book because I had written a previous book and I introduced my now very dear friend and book agent to human design. And she knew about astrology. And when I introduced her to human design, she happens to be a manifestor like me. And she had this moment, she's like, wait, this makes more sense to me than astrology. And she started digging in and she's like, everything out there is like very complicated. She's like, but when you tell me it, it feels like very like simple. She's like, we need a book that's kind of like the intro book to human design. And
Yes.
so that's how this was birthed. I taught someone who knows about books and she's like, we need the simple book out there to get people started because there's so much in human design. And there's really no like, here's the first starting point book.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for writing this book because it's super easy. I love that you have examples. I love you have solutions to certain situations. And so obviously every person in society has their own human design. And as you wrote here in your book, it says that there is five energy types.
Yeah.
So why don't you tell us what are they?
So technically there are four aura types, but five energy types. And what I mean by that is in the core human design system, there are generators, projectors, manifestors, and reflectors. But now there's also the way we speak about it, there's generators and they're manifesting generators because there's a distinction there. They're both generator auras, but they're two different energies. So what I mean by that is generators like you have so there's all these like this there's just like nuanced language, it's very technical language, but basically the generators, you have consistent energy to do the things you love as long as it's you get this yes no response from your body to do it. And really the generators are here some people call them the builders, right? Because when you're like, oh yes, this is a yes, you take what's already created and you make it, you improve on it, you build upon it, you take it to the next level, right? Whereas me as a manifester, my aura is not built for consistency, it's built for initiating things, right? So I'm
Yeah.
here to be like, hey, we need to get this started. And someone like with your energy could be like, oh, I love that. And you know what? I can help you make it like this and put it over here, right? Now, the manifesting generator, which is also a generator aura, they're a little bit different because they have the consistent energy, but they're not necessarily the builders. They're not going to stay in one place and build and build and build. They're going to be like, oh, what's the shortcut? Now I move on. Oh, what's the shortcut? Now I move on. They're kind of like the multi-potentialites of the human design system
They're the
because their energy is
shortcutters.
fast. They're the fast trackers,
Fast trackers. Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? They fast track and they kind of move on. There's a little bit of guilt in society about like sticking to something and doing something for the rest of their life. But these are the people who you may see like moving, zipping in and out of things, but that's how their energy works, right? And we get to honor that. Then we have projectors. Projectors have an aura that's very penetrating. They're here to be like, I feel your energy, I'm taking in your energy, and I think I know how to help you guide your energy forward, right? And then there are the reflectors that, like the name says, they reflect back. They're only 1% of the human population, by the way. So they're very rare. Um,
You know a human being with a reflector energy?
yes, so it's interesting that you say that because when I started doing readings, I didn't meet one until the first 2 years of my reading. But in the past, like 3 months, I've met like three reflectors, including Vanessa from We All Grow Latina. I just met her at a conference and she's a reflector. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing to see these rare aura types here in like major leadership positions. So it shows you how your energy works, right? So some of us are built for like very different things. Reflectors are here to almost be like I call it the mood rings of the world because they're not taking on the energy like the reflector, but they're trying it on. They'll be like, ooh, being with you, my energy's like this, or being in this community, my energy's like this, and whatever they are, it's going to tell us how we all are as together. Where a projector's better with the individuals and guiding them. A manifestor's like, I'm here to get the party started. Our generators are building, and our manifesting generators are taking what's there, fast tracking us to what's next, getting us there quickly and efficiently.
Yes. Oh my God, there's just so many. Now, how does this interplay with astrology? Like, because I get a little bit confused because I'm like, oh, how?
I love this. I love this because the way it works with astrology is that the way our aura type or energy type is defined is based. So if you've never seen human, if you're listening and you've never seen human design, there's like this chart, but it's shaped like the body of a person. And in the
Yeah.
body of the person, there are 9 centers and there are 64 gates. So the 64 gates that live in those 9 centers, each of those are specifically correlated to specific degrees of astrology. So basically, your birth chart plus what I call the birth chart of your soul. When we combine those two, that's how we get your human design. And when I say the birth chart of your soul, what happens in human design is they say that your soul came into your body 88 days before you were born. No matter
Mm,
if you are premature or came in late, there's like this contract with your soul, like this is the day we're coming in, and the soul comes in 88 days. And so there's a calculation. And so we get these two planetary activations. And so all the lines in your chart are based
yeah.
on basically the astrology of where the planets were the day you were born.
Ooh, oh my God. 80. You said 88 days?
Yes. So typically when you look at a human design chart, you'll see black lines and you'll
Uh-huh.
see red lines. The
Yeah.
black lines are your birth chart lines. The red lines are the birth chart lines of your soul.
I see. And then if you don't have any lines, I mean, any color in them, what does that mean?
Oh, well, so those are the reflectors. So you're good. So our reflectors, who are these rare 1%ers, they're going to have lines because their birth chart has lines. But what happens is that their lines do not connect the bigger pieces. So once again, if you're listening and you've never done your birth chart, I mean, your human design chart, you can actually go to um, yourauratwork.com and there's a free calculator there. And when you're looking at this chart, if you want to pause and come back to this, you're looking at the chart, you're going to see 9 blocks and 32 lines that connect these. And so our reflectors, they've got lines, but the lines never connected to another piece. Yeah, so you have that there, right? So you've got
Yeah.
these blocks. Sometimes they're standing. And so, by the way, a block will never stand by itself. These are highlighting specific like centers, but there's always at least two blocks. So, in fact, Jackie, you are one of these open generators. You've got the
Yeah.
bottom two blocks connected, and then everything else is open.
And everything else is open. So these two are colored and
Yeah,
everything is open. So that's why it's like it's so crazy because as she's explaining this human design and has been working with me for now like 2 years now,
I think so.
right? I
My
think
gosh,
almost 2 years or two.
almost.
Um, I can see it now. See how I handle things, how it's
Yeah,
like for me to just okay, move on. I don't need to hold on to resentment. I don't hold on to things because as a
our
generator,
emotions.
my emotions, I don't have those.
You do, you just don't
I do.
operate from that.
That's right. That's right. And so having someone, an expert to show me how I can better utilize my energy is so crucial in the decisions that I've been making in my career. Now, I know that one of the things that you and I have worked on is what would the corporate human design be? So,
Mm.
can you just give us like a high level, like, is there a difference in your human design as is, or is it just kind of like a plus, like, oh, this is human design plus for
You
you?
mean like, you mean your business or how you show up in your business?
Oh shit, there's two things. Huh? Okay, how I show up in my business first and then the business.
Okay, perfect. So, how you show up in your business. So, typically, some people may pull up the actual chart of your business because, all of this is based on birth data, the day you were born, the place you were born, right? So, technically, some people actually pull up the chart for their businesses, and your business may have a different energy than you, right? But the way you show up in your business is also going to be interesting based on how many people you're working with. So, things to consider is that whether you don't own a business, but you're maybe in a group or you work on your own, there are nuances there about how we show up. Like your aura by itself, like I could tell you, I could do a reading for you and I could tell you how your aura works when you're in the bubble of yourself. But
Yeah,
when you're with someone else, it's going to connect differently. So, two people could have similar aura types. So, you could be with another generator, but if you have different things that make you a generator, then you're going to be a little bit different. And maybe you support each other in different ways. Um, there are also different things that we don't always talk about in mainstream human design, like a disclaimer that I almost want to do is like your aura type will not dictate what you're supposed to do. It will
yeah,
dictate how your energy shows up for the work, but there are actually hints to what you should be doing, how you should be doing it, how you can align with money based on that, based on some of the planetary activations in your chart. So there are really cool data points that we can mine to increase, support, retweak some things that may be blocked in your business based on what we see in some of the activations, which comes from the astrology.
yes, and okay, so then that just leads me, I guess, to this next question about, is it true that billionaires consult astrology to make decisions?
Is it true? I mean, I'm not working with billionaires yet. However, it is like JP Morgan, the famous very very famous what banker from
Yeah,
back in the day. He was actually the one who quoted that. This is a JP Morgan quote. Millionaires don't consult astrologers, billionaires do, right? Because they understand that we have cycles where we work best, where we might find technical blocks. Like, there was some political stuff just yesterday about someone sending an email to a whole bunch of people that so wasn't supposed to receive the email, and we're Mercury retrograde, right? And so when we know our energy and we know the cycles of the universe, like
yeah,
we can really level up our level of creation in how we contribute to the world.
yeah.
I don't know if you know, but also President Reagan, Joan Quigley was his in-house astrologer, like for century, like from the beginning of time.
Oh, wow.
Anyone who's been in power has typically had like some kind of
Sort of like,
consultant that worked
yeah,
with the mystical and not
mystic,
just the
like,
logical.
right, like a mystic on staff, or at least as a consultant basis. I met one who actually was a mystic, who is a mystic, who consulted the Clintons. And he even had pictures. And I'm like, oh my
Yeah,
God. And it was like he had to bring a message to my husband, which is the most craziest of things. That's a whole different conversation.
yeah, yeah.
But I see the benefit of consulting either a mystic or someone who is knowledgeable of astrology to help them process information to come to a solution.
I love what you just said because for me, I don't want someone to come to me to give them the answers. I want to come to someone and be like, here are your variables. Because
Mm,
as humans, we have free will, right? Like
yeah,
we are told that God gave us free will. And I think there's fear behind this work because some people operate like this is ultimate truth rather than I'm going to tell you what's possible here. And you get to decide. You still have the free will in this lifetime to be like, I don't want that, right? Like just to give you an example, before I started doing this work as my work, I was working in higher education and I started manifesting literal days with spiritual celebrities. Like I sat on a plane next to Deepak Chopra for 6 hours. And then a month later, I was taking a up and coming YouTube spiritual star all over New York before her flight. And one of the things is she is a medium and she sees things. And I was like, I want to be a coach and I want to do these things. And she's like, no, you're not going to be a coach. This is what you're going to be doing. You're going to stay in higher ed. And in my head, I'm like, well, thank you for the information. I
yeah.
rebuke that because I don't
I
want to be in
rebuke
higher
it.
ed. I'm like, I don't want to be in higher ed for the rest of my life. I don't feel that. It
Yeah.
doesn't feel like it's my true nature. Whether you see a different path for me, thank you for sharing. And she's very well known. Like I don't want to disclose names because there's controversy behind her, but that was such a moment for me to be like, yes, this is an expert. This is someone people pay tens of
Love
thousands of dollars to consult. And here I'm hanging out with her in my car and being like, no, I'm not going to listen to you
it.
because
Yeah.
I have my free will. And
Yeah.
I was able to be like, thank you for that advice. And I'm going to go with what's resonant
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
me in my free
Right.
will.
Right. Right. Because ultimately, as you said, we all have free will. So it really, if you, after knowing your human design, like me, I feel it in my sacrum, right?
Sacral,
Um,
yeah.
if it doesn't sacral, if it doesn't align there, then
If it's not so for generators and manifesting generators, the high level quote is if it's not a hell yes, it's a hell no. So even
right.
if it's like, oh well, no, that's a no. If it's not a yes, I want to do this, your energy is telling you, your body's telling you. I'm not one of those people, I don't have that definition, but still I have this intuition that said, thank you and no. Thank you next. What else do you have for me, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so
Right.
so I think when you're aligned as an individual, right? Like there are a lot of people who are going to individuals like this to give them the answers and solve their life instead of being like knowing who you are and operating from that self-knowing to be aligned,
Yeah.
than someone who's like, giving their power away. One thing I want to tell people all the time, they should confirm your inner knowing. This shouldn't be a methodology to give your power away with.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Oh my God. Inner knowing is I mean, and inner knowing could be allowing the divine to guide your way, right? That could be inner knowing.
Yeah.
And I always feel like those that don't believe in an inner knowingness of some sort, I'm like, oh, how sad. It saddens me. I'm like, wow, just to be depending on you, just you, and that's not fun to be alone.
Yeah. I think about as Latinas, we were raised and I joke because my dad was from Colombia. We were raised with magical realism. right?
Yes.
We
Yes.
were taught to be practical, but we believed in miracles, right?
Yeah.
Like we went to church, but we would light la velita or put in, my mom would put agua de Florida para la buena suerte, right? So, you know, I think there are cultural nuances to why some people might not believe and believe, and that's our free will. And but for me, I'm like, I've seen
Yeah.
magical realism. I've experienced magical realism. I couldn't imagine a life without magical realism. For me, there's so much color. So I feel bad saying like, oh, how sad of you. But it's like, for me, I'm like, oh, like you're
Let me
missing
work with
out.
you.
You're missing out on a layer of color of life. And that's your choice. And so
Yeah.
I hope you experience magic with or
Yeah.
without that.
Oh, yes. Well, I hope so too, amigas out there. And for those of you who are interested, definitely make sure, where can we find this book?
Wherever books are sold, you can
Oh,
go
human design
online,
made
Amazon. Yeah.
easy.
Yeah.
Ilona Pamplona. Can we find it on your website?
Yes. So on
Okay.
ilonapamplona.com/books are links to all my books, including my previous one, which was a mood ring journal.
Yes, I am so excited for you and all the wonderful things that are heading your way and how you know the whole world can actually apply your message here because
Oh,
it's universal
it
and
is.
and we all have an energy, right? And
Yes.
there are certain energies that don't work well with each other, right?
Well, it's more so like, so we can talk about from a human design perspective. There's this a synastry thing where, like, when we bring two charts together. So when we bring two charts together, there are nine centers, and there's this sense of, if there are five. So you saw there are nine centers, and when people come together, some things may click together that you don't have either of you, and it may not. But if there are five or less out of those nine centers, it's going to be almost rare for you to be connected.
Oh, yeah.
Now, then if there are six centers that are defined and three open, there are these like little rhymes. There's six, three, it's better to be free. Why? Because even though there's six centers and you're magnetically, energetically in the quantum field able to match, there's a lot of openness. So you'd really need to be committed to working through the themes of those open centers to stay together. And so they're like, that's a lot of work. You might want to consider this. 7-2, there's work to do. So it's like, okay, we have a little bit more
Uh-huh.
connected here. You still have two centers. Are you committed to doing the work? Now at
Mm.
8-1, and it's funny because a lot of the couples that I know in my life that are doing well, they're 8-1s, right? There are eight centers defined, one center open, and they're having fun playing with like whatever their open center represents for their relationship, and they're able to have fun with that energy. And then there's 9-0, which everything's defined when they're together, and it's called nowhere to go. So it's either like going on a long car ride with your best friend or being like, I know this is boring. So it would depend on the person and the dynamic, right?
It almost seems that it should be a no-brainer to have this consultation done before getting married.
That way, at least you know what you're working with, right? Like, I know plenty of people that are 7-2s, and they're okay because they're like, we love doing the work. And then there's also these little nuances called the electromagnetic channels and things like that. Like, so some couples that are the 6-3s, they have a lot of spark that goes, we care enough here to make that work, right?
Yeah, yeah. Oh, this is such exciting news. So, aside from the book, can they book you for a consult? How can they
Yes.
doing that?
So they can go on ilonapamplona.com. There's sessions to book a session. I'm in a little bit of a pivot right now, only because I've just gotten certified in the Genius Report training, which is literally human design for business. So it's literally taking the human design for people who are like, I either am in a career transition or I think I want to be an entrepreneur, but I don't know that's a fit for me. We have all this information, all this data we can pull to be like, this is the type of entrepreneurship or business or job that would make you feel like you're really using your talents, like you're really in the energy of your magic to contribute in such a way.
Ooh, is that separate from getting this human design?
Yeah, so it's an additional separate report that I get from a third party provider, and it deep dives into circuitry. So like when you go online, there's a lot of human design on like the profiles and the centers and the auras, but this goes next level to really talk about circuitry and the power bases you bring to teams and organizations. So it's really, really fascinating. I'm so glad I did this training with the Genius Report team.
Oh, nice. Okay, so Genius Report, Human Design Made Easy, Auras, what's the other one?
Astrology.
Astrology. All the things they can come to you for support.
Yeah.
Yes, amazing. Okay, Ilona, you know what I do all the time. At the end of my interview, I always ask for one or two tips on how an amiga can handle her shit. But I know you have a
Mm.
lot. I know you have a
I
ton.
know. Right now I'm seeing, I'm just going to think about like what's coming up astrologically. So I'm going to give
Oh, yeah.
future casting
Woo.
astrological tips, okay? I have a fascination with Saturn, the planet of responsibility. And Saturn is about to leave Pisces, the dreamer, and is going to go into Aries, the warrior and the individual. And so we're going to go into a cycle where we're going to have to be self-responsible. So one tip for
Mm,
amigas to handle their shit in the
yeah.
upcoming astrological season, it's a 2.5 to 3 year cycle, is act from a place that no one's coming to save you. And not because I don't like, not that you can't be supported, but there's like a self responsibility, like own your side of the breakdown
Yeah.
instead of giving your power away and acting like you weren't a participant or you don't have like skin in the game with like your results in your life, right? Does that make sense? Like, and this is not to victimize people because I also don't believe in victimizing people, but we're about to enter a season where we get to be like, how am I responsible for this? And then take action from your power rather than waiting for someone to come and do the work for you.
And that kind of just kind of encapsulates what a lot of people are feeling with this new president, that I think this would resonate for the person that it's either they're getting cut off on funding and all the things. Okay, instead of being victim,
Mm.
how can I change this around?
It's about empowerment, like I'll be honest, I'm not a fan of what's happening. And at the same time, what has woken up in me is where do I find power? How do I find power? How do I contribute despite the circumstances? And I have started plugging into communities that work together where I can help them lift their voices. I have helped clients who needed that motivation or that validation that they're on the right path regardless of what's happening. Now, because the truth is there are things that are outside of control, and the only thing we control is what's in our power. And yes, we could be like, this administration may not be aligned with me. For me, it's very not aligned with my values of empathy and collectivism and community empowerment. However, that doesn't mean I don't have power. It doesn't mean I can't work with others to still create the world I want to create.
Mm.
And I'm also going to add, we're in Pluto and Aquarius for 20 years. Actually, it's more like 19 years now, right? And what that means is there is power in the collective. So, yes, there are individuals who are trying to use whatever power they have to make you feel less than, but you can find the people that have your values, work together, and you own your power to contribute to those groups and to those collectives to change the world.
Oh, yes. Mic drop. Own your power, amigas. Okay, you heard it here from Ilona. And you know where you can find her, ilonapamplona.com. She has all these courses and human design, and definitely you can get her book. We're also on YouTube, so you'll be able to see this on YouTube. Human Design Made Easy, understanding the 5 energy types, and figure out what your energy type. Mine is generator, so I'm excited because
Use that power.
I'm using that power every day, amiga. So thank you so much, Ilona, for being here on Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast.
Always. Thank you for shining your light and being a cause in the matter and where we get to be in the world.
Oh, yes. Amen, sister.